Welcome to this episode of the Catalyst Podcast, making your visits feel like home. This episode was inspired by a TikTok video that I watched where this foster parent showed her process as she invited a new foster child into her home. Now, I've never fostered children. I believe that is the most wonderful and loving thing that a family can do. And so I was fascinated to get a glimpse into her world. I know there are no two foster families alike, but what she did was incredible. I felt instantly comfortable. She did it in the POV sense, where this video was filmed as if you were the child walking through her home. It started with her opening the door and saying, "Hi, nice to meet you. My name is," and depending on the age of the child, she would either be crouching to their eye level or standing above them and extending her hand. She led this video with such attention to detail and comfort that you immediately felt like you could be okay here. And what I mean by that is she allowed them to retain autonomy. She would say things like, "Would you like to know where the bathroom is first, or would you like to see your room? Would you like to know where we keep the snacks? Here's the shelf that the snacks are kept for you." And she would outline the rules. In this house, we don't need permission to get food if you're hungry from this snack drawer. Dinner is served at this hour. She would go through these high-level details and also the minute details that really put the magic in this experience. She would explain that this is where they would sleep, that this is the outside, that, these rules around bedtime and wake time, and she allowed them to make decisions on where they wanted to explore next. Always keeping in mind their feelings and being careful not to overwhelm them with this whole experience because it was new. And this got me thinking, I know we'll never be able to know this for sure, but I guarantee that the success rate of her experience with her foster kids has got to be blowing everybody out of the water. I can't imagine any child wouldn't feel that love, even if they're in a state of mind where maybe they just left a chaotic environment. The way she was able to reset the tone and to regulate her own emotions and allowing that kid to come into her world with this open, curious acceptance is admirable. I also believe that is the key missing ingredient in crafting your own functional medicine visits to feel like home for your patients. If you imagine, some patients might be coming from chaos. They were told by many doctors that they don't know what's going on. Their hands are thrown up in the air. They feel maybe even gaslit, that they're going crazy. They don't understand why they have these symptoms. And so they're trepidatious. They're working through a system that is broken. And healthcare, as much as I love being a physician, there are a lot of gaps and deficiencies where patients are having to rely on their own insistent autonomy of badgering the caregivers and doctors and providers to get attention, or else details get slipped through the cracks simply because of the way the system is. So imagine if you use principles like this wonderful foster mom of opening your door and giving your patients this experience, a tour of how it looks on the inside. You're going to alleviate a lot of anxiety. You're going to answer a lot of questions ahead of time, and you set the tone for that catalyst culture that you want to create, which is flow channeled, which is self-expressive, which is regulating your nervous system and having loving boundaries. That is the catalyst culture that we maintain. So this episode is for you. If you are curious how you can successfully set up that beautiful home-like experience in that first patient visit, what we'll do is we'll cover two things. The things I think you should have on your website, in public-facing areas, in your email nurturing sequences, as well as the things that you can do in your office and during your first visit, even if you're doing telemedicine or using Zoom or other platforms to do an online visit. So let's jump in. Okay, first, let's talk about your website. I love websites because it does all the work for us. So Things that you need to make sure you have on your website is making sure that you feel authentically aligned with the copy that you have. Do the words reflect words that you would use? Does it sound formal? Is it too, I don't know, intelligent sounding, right? Pass the words through somebody who is feeling uncertain and scared. Can they understand what you're saying? Can they resonate with your friendly, warm demeanor? Make sure those copy and the words really feel like your own. Walk your patient through the entire process on your website. Where do they go first to make the first contact? What do they expect after that? Are you incorporating an initial visit? Make that clear that it starts with an initial visit. Maybe you call it a 360 case review, or maybe you call it a foundational assessment. You can pick whatever words that you need. You set the expectation. What are they going to learn after that visit? What will you deliver on that visit? You're giving them these outlines of expectations. Do they have to have labs ahead of time? Do you want them to bring something to the visit? All of these things help ease their anxiety as they're traveling along this uncertain landscape. The more they know that they're upholding what they should be, they'll feel more confident, and also it establishes that trust and safety. You may want to outline if you have any membership fees or enrollment fees. I like to be transparent. It works for me and my community. I don't like any surprises. Much like that foster mom would offer a specific coat hanger hook for that child to put their belongings, I really don't like surprises. I like to have them come in and feel like this is part of their journey and they're feeling very welcomed. So look at that website as if you were a patient. Do you clearly understand what is expected of you? Do you know how much things will cost? Do you know after that first visit, will you be invited into a membership? And if so, are there choices in that? And how do you make those choices, right? There's questions. I have the patients see clearly that I choose the level of membership based on their MSQ score. So they give a score and we choose the membership style that fits them best. And if it comes down to affordability, that's okay. If they can't afford the one they need, they can purchase the lower level, but then there are boundaries with that. They see that I won't be doing certain things like having extensive long visits with them because they're paying for the lowest membership. So this is where these loving boundaries come in, because you want to support them and you're showing them the whole world ahead of time on your website. Finally, also have a feedback area on your website. This is often missed. I see this in a lot of practitioner websites where we're so worried about showing that we have it all figured out, but we don't give room for that humanity that we have. We'll make mistakes. We'll forget something. Technology has gremlins afoot all the time. So have a suggestion box on your website or a link or some way that people can submit questions. This can go above and beyond your FAQ area. But more importantly, once patients are inside your ecosystem, also remind them that you are open to feedback. Much like that TikTok video I saw with this foster mom, she was really humble when she said she learned a lot through all the years of doing this because of feedback. She would hear things from kids and she would incorporate that into the next round of welcoming other children in her home, which I thought was special and wonderful. And that's something that us as practitioners need to do. So let's move into your in-office setting. Obviously, we can touch on all the 5 senses, right? How does the light look in your office? Do you have comfortable seating? Do you offer water or coffee or tea? Do you have music playing? All of these things are wonderful. Do you have somebody at the door? Do you have a receptionist that can greet somebody? If you're a small clinic like me and it's just me, I don't open my door. I don't keep it open to the public because the last thing I want is people to be wandering in my office, kind of circling around, looking at the artwork or picking up material to read when I'm in the middle of a session with a patient in my exam room. I'd much rather keep this space sacred so that the patients feel private inside my exam room. So my front door is locked, but I do have a sign and a QR code so people can contact me if need be. But that's the culture that I've decided to create, as one of warmth and of privacy here in this clinic. When you look at your in-office area, look at ways that you can seamlessly travel with the patient so it feels comfortable, that you design systems like, for example, they always come in and check in with your front desk staff, and then they offer them a drink and an open seat on the couch. Or maybe you have designed that after that, they tend to give them the newest subscription to a magazine and offer them a snack. They might have a policy where you have your staff check in with them every 5 minutes. If you're running late, you let them know. What you're doing is you're communicating. And that's really all this is communicating. Whenever you set the tone for a comfortable visit that feels like home, it's based on communication. And even if you're late, studies have shown as long as there's communication, most people understand that you're devoting time to somebody who needs it, and you would gladly do that to the next person in line when it's their turn. So look through those systems. Is there a way you can tweak your process that makes it feel more homey? Can you put more plants in the seating area? Do you have outdated magazines that have been there for 4 years and maybe they need to be tossed in the recycling bin? Is the bathroom fresh? Does your staff know to tour the patient around and show them the areas that they can go? Many people are scared to explore because they don't know what doors they're allowed to open or not. So one of the first things I do in my in-person visits, when they walk in, I give them a lay of the land, much like this foster parent did. And I was actually surprised to hear her do that because it sounded very similar to the speech that I do. This is what I say. I welcome them in and I tell them enthusiastically, I'm so excited to have you here. I've really enjoyed learning about you. Because by the time my patient walks in for their first visit, I've already looked through their case, I've been organizing my thoughts, and I know a lot about them. So I want to set the tone of knowing that their information is very precious to me, and I don't take it lightly that they were candid and honest, and they can trust me to hold this at the highest level. So I welcome them in, and then I explain to them, I'm going to lock the door right behind us because our friendly community loves to walk in and think this is a coffee shop because of the beautiful artwork. Usually the patients walk in and they are looking around at the artwork. And so I welcome them to explore. I give them a little tour. This is artwork that I've made. It's part of my brand and mission to help patients become self-expressive in their ability to heal and to grab as many modalities as necessary along that journey, whether it's functional medicine, creative flow neuroscience, polyvagal theory. I dabble in a lot of healing modalities, and I choose artwork and music and dance as part of my self-expression. So I let them kind of take it all in. And then I pause and I let them choose where to sit. I have a comfy big couch. I have several colorful chairs. I have a hard wooden table with wooden chairs. They can decide what feels good. So I take a step back and I let them choose. Then I have them put their stuff down and I ask if you would like to know where the bathroom is. It's down the hallway. Water is over here. And then I give them the statement that we are alone here. There's a lot of doors, but there's nobody else here but us. So everything you say here is private and there's nobody else listening. Also, if you ever need to take a break, you're welcome to just stand up and go to the bathroom. Let me know. This is an hour session. So sometimes people are bringing their water bottle and, the bladder calls. This has helped so much with patients opening up and feeling comfortable right from the beginning. So this is what I do for the in-person visits. Now let's transition to how you can make them feel at home online. Some of these tips also can hold with these in-person visits, but it's even more critical to talk about your visit agenda online. Because online spaces have no beginning and end. It's very difficult to establish a container. You aren't in a physical space, you're on a computer screen. So there's a lot of tendency for the scope creep to happen where suddenly it's 30 minutes and your visit was supposed to be 30 minutes. You haven't even finished the first part of what you were planning on doing. This happens. So what I train myself to do is put the Zoom timer on immediately that will show a time lapse. I'll set it for 30 minutes, 45, an hour, whatever it is. That becomes our visible timer that keeps us both on track. And I have been doing this so long that I just have a little song and dance where I say, oh, I hope you can notice the timer. And this is more for me to keep on track. I like to make sure that we dedicate the specific time allowed to what we need to do. So I explain to them that the first part of our visit, the first half, is reviewing their anchor goals, where they started, how they're doing in comparison, and answering any questions they may have had from previous visits. And it helps me orient them to how deep we might need to go. By explaining this agenda and saying that we only have this many minutes to go over this, then I help transition to the next part, which is the treatment plan. I like to open that up and say, now we're going to talk about the different modalities. I'm going to recommend different supplements. I give them the expectation of what they should know. That basically these visits aren't going to be a deep dive. A 30-minute visit for a follow-up sounds like heaven in primary care, but in functional medicine, that's hard to do. There's a lot you can talk about. You could spend 30 minutes just on one supplement description. So what I expect them to understand is we're going to go through this high-level treatment plan. But don't worry, in your visit summary, I will include clips of open office hour videos that I've done where I've explained something in detail, articles, and all of these are already done with my text expanders that we talk about with efficiency. I can quickly put those in shortcut keys and they have wonderful ability to learn more. Remember, not every patient wants to have a deep dive. They just want the nuts and bolts. So this is where I continue to give them that autonomy. This follow-up visit, we'll talk about some of these action steps, but don't worry, you'll have the option to learn more in depth in your visit summary. And I'm always looking at the timer and really keeping things on task. I have to say I have a great track record. I've never been late. I've never gone over because of the culture that I've set, the trust and the safety that patients feel that it's not that this visit is the only visit they get to talk to me and get all their questions answered. They can feel the sincerity that I will be here for them in this ecosystem. This visit is a planning visit to get down their treatment plan. And then they know that every week I have group visits, which I call open office hours. They can walk back in on my online home and understand more, ask more questions as they come up. They understand they have access in the portal message. They understand they have access to my online tutorials and courses because this is a full culture that I've unrolled with them. And the more I welcome people into this world with this kind of care and attention, as if I was in their footsteps, going through this healthcare system, this rocky landscape that hasn't been the friendliest, you'd be amazed at how healing that is in itself. Patients just seeing that you're there, welcoming them into your home can be wonderfully healing to what's been ailing them. They feel like they have a partner. They feel like they have an advocate, and you are both co-creating their ideal future. Did you know that burnout is the same brainwave pattern as grief under a functional MRI? This means that 63% of us in healthcare are showing up to work every day immersed in burnout and grief. No wonder we have brain fog and emotional exhaustion and depersonalization. We're on autopilot, just going through the motions. But the good news is, there is an antidote. The opposite brainwave pattern is flow, the only time where your brain produces all 5 neurochemicals of happiness. And better yet, you can teach yourself to prime your brain for more flow in your work-life masterpiece. In my course, Catalyst Reclamation, I teach you my 3-step AHA method so you can practice finding more moments of flow. And when you do, you increase your happiness, your well-being, you lower your cortisol, and you flourish as the catalyst that you are transforming healthcare. So come color outside the lines with me and go to drlarasalyer.com/shop and check out the 10-hour AMA-approved CME course, Catalyst Reclamation, so that you can step into your highest creative power. As I conclude any visit, whether in person or online, I talk about next steps. And I know it sounds kind of intuitive. Of course, you're going to get a visit summary that's in your portal. But it's nice to have a reminder, right? Just like that foster parent in that TikTok video would tell them, well, you're going to go to bed tonight and then you're going to wake up tomorrow. Of course they are. But to hear it verbalized, to give that framework and to help explain to people what's going to happen next can be so alleviating to that generalized anxiety. And so I tell them, after this visit concludes, I will work on your case. I will put my ideas in your visit summary. Your prescriptions will be faxed. Your supplements will be uploaded. But then please allow X number of hours for the pharmacist to assemble your prescriptions. Please allow, I try to give them a gauge. Depending on how busy I am, I can get the chart done in 15 minutes. So I will tell them that. You'll probably see this chart, this notification in the next 30 minutes. Or if I'm having a really busy day, I'll tell them, please don't expect it until the end of the day. And this gives them that wonderful assurance that I'm working on it. They know what to expect. And this is just one way of many. Now, here's some bonus ways that, you can do to help make this feel even more like home. Train your staff, if you have any, to have the same kind of values and mission that you do. You might say, instead of patient first, just co-creation first, right? Homey, empathetic, friendly environment first. You're trying to keep this as a wonderful experience as possible. So training your staff that you're going to want to be proactive in saying the obvious. I know it might seem like the obvious. It's already on your website. Maybe you already have it in your email sequence. That's okay. It takes sometimes 5 to 7 touch points for us to remind ourselves where to go next. And the sooner we can understand that's just human nature, and that not everybody reads your website, it's okay to repeat yourself. The second thing you can do, in addition to training your staff, is utilize the digital space to continue being that steward of familiarity and safety and trust. And what I mean by that is look at that nurture sequence that you send out for your appointment reminders. You may decide to drop in a picture of your office or a picture of you, something that feels friendly and warm. Maybe you remind them of homework that they were supposed to do. For me, I have a pre-visit check-in, kind of like checking in at the airline. So I remind them, did you do that pre-visit check-in? I'm really curious how you're doing, and this helps keep our visit efficient. Another thing you could do is put a link to a tour. If it's their first visit, you can put a link to a visual tour of your office and your services. Again, reiterating what the services are, how much they cost, where all those things can be redone. And it's just a nice touch point again, so that they feel more confident. They've heard these things before. They may have heard them again. They feel like they have the knowledge stepping in. So using technology is one of my favorite ways to look through all those little compartments that are touch points, whether it's a SMS text or email nurturing. I love to add little things that feel like a personal touch. If you're having people travel from far and away, put things from your community in there. Hey, if you're traveling here from hours away, here are my 3 favorite restaurants that you might consider grabbing a snack, or here's a healthy option, for this store. And people love that little extra touch. And finally, don't forget that feedback loop. Add that link. It can be simple. You don't have to overthink it. It can be a Google form that goes right to you or your assistant. Did you still have questions after this? How can we serve you better? Please submit your response here. By acknowledging that full scope of welcoming people in with that first visit, both in person and digital, you will go a long way, further than most practitioners, to establish that trust and safety and help them along their healing journey, even before you've gotten any lab results or prescribed any supplement treatment plans. So I hope this episode helped you. Thank you for listening. I hope that you're excited and inspired to create a homey atmosphere, setting the stage for your patient, which will undoubtedly help increase and catalyze more transformational success in their healing journey. I'd love to hear what you do to create this warm atmosphere to welcome a new patient. So drop it below, follow me on social media, and let's connect and keep transforming lives together. Thank you for coloring outside the lines with me, and I will talk to you next week.